Hey everyone, I'm going to go ahead and do the tutorial for the Rand basket weave wig project. I wore this on Star Trek The Cruise 3 and I had several people ask me about this, so I'm putting together this tutorial to help walk you through it. Alright, we're going to start with the materials you're going to need. The first thing you're going to need is two crazy long wigs. They don't need to be expensive wigs. These are the ones I use, so I have two identical ones. You want it to be long and straight, longer than you think it's going to need to be. You can always cut it off, you can't put it back on, and make sure it has bangs as well. That's going to help you with the finished look. Next, you'll see on the bottom left, I've got that sheet of craft foam. Get something as close to the color of your wig as possible. That will help for matching. In the orange, you can see the bath poof I used. This is what I used to stuff the bump. And then I also have very small elastic bands like you use for braces, orthodontic bands. I'm going to use those to hold the wefts together as I'm creating them to keep going. A couple other things you need is an upholstery needle. Those are those curved needles, and thread to match it. You're going to need Mod Podge or some white glue and a foam brush, and then some crazy strong hairspray. So here's one more shot of the wig I used. Crazy long, and again now here's a quick refresher of the materials we needed. So this first step, I'm going to go ahead and take one of the wigs. I like to attach it to a foam head with T-pins, just makes my life easier. And I'm going to separate out 1-inch sections of the hair from the back, cut them and secure them with an elastic band. Now I'm going to cut as many as I can from the back, probably about 15 to 16, but I'm going to leave one long on each side of the face, and this will help me secure it and blend the two wigs together later on. Leave the bangs as they are. So as you can see, I'm separating out each piece, cutting it, securing, setting it aside, and I'll go ahead and work through that for the entire wig here. So now that I have all the wefts cut, I'm going to have my wig looking kind of like a shorn tribble here. So you can see I've got all the back cut off. And then what you're going to see here is I've laid out what each weaving piece looks like, and I'll have about 16 of them, as you can see as I'm laying them out here. Alright, so now we're ready to start the weave. So I've got all my pieces of hair, they're all bound with those elastic bands, and I have them set out next to a piece of styrofoam and those T-pins. Those are going to make my life easier. And then I've found using a little bit of mousse on each strand keeps things together, makes the weaving go nicer. So what I'm going to do, as you see me working here, is I'm taking each strand, I'm smoothing it out, and then I'm taking that T-pin and I'm putting it right at the elastic band, holding it at the edge of the styrofoam board. These are my vertical pieces when I look at the wig, at the basket weave. So I'm going to use most of the pieces I have. Now, in the actual production wigs, it's a little more narrow than I like to do it. I'd like to make it about 10 to 12 wide. I just think it looks better. But you're going to need to reserve 6 to 8 of your strands to use for your horizontal weaves. So for each one, put them in close together, as you can see here. Keep them nice and straight. Keep the pins in at the rubber bands, and then you can see at the end this is what it's going to look like with all my pieces stretched out, and I'm prepared to do my next step, which is weaving in the horizontal basket weave. So as we start the horizontal basket weave, I want you to think about numbering your strands, however many you have, and it's going to be important to pay attention to which ones are your even ones and which are your odds, because with our basket weave, what we're going to do is each alternating row, we're going to go, for instance, under all the odds, the first row, and then once we've pulled that through, the second row, we're going to go over the odds and under all the evens. And so this will get us our alternating format. And so you can see me doing this with the first couple rows here. And then I'm going to go ahead and continue that pattern. Keep your weaving consistent. You can tighten it up later. It doesn't have to be super tight right now, but that's going to get us through. Go slow. Use the mousse if it helps to help you lift under each one. And then we're going to work through, and you need 6 to 8 of those working through. So now that I've woven them through, I'm going to have something that looks kind of like this. It's still kind of loose and irregular, so what you're going to do now is use your fingers and squeeze the strands closer together to each other. And the other thing you're going to want to do is pull those horizontals so that you have the same amount of hair on the left as the right side of your weaving. Otherwise, when you're going to blend it into the wig, you're going to have a lot of hair on one side and you're going to have a bald patch on the other. It's not going to look good. So make that as even as possible as you move through there. Push it in tight together, and then our next step will be to glue on the backing. So you're going to need to cut a piece of your craft foam that is about the size of your weaving. A little bit big is okay, but keep it as close as possible because you're just going to have to clean it up later. Then take your foam brush and apply a very light layer of your Mod Podge or white glue to it. Let it set until it's just tacky, and then you're just going to smooth it on. Then you need to let it sit for a couple hours to get nice and dry, and as you're doing that, you can move on to our next step where we make the hair tribble.